Hi. Let's see, where are we? We're supposed to be doing the enemy patrol thing this time around, and I put that a little bit in the other video, but this is my little solution to having the enemy patrol go the direction that he's actually supposed to go when he's out of the patrol. So he's got his move right and move left transforms, and the triggers are determined by how far he gets from his local position, and then it activates a turnaround float, which is just 180. Turns him around, and then he goes to the other side. And now the thing is, they're both the same because they're going forward either direction. They're moving on their own personal axes, like real people do. But when it gets to the end of his chase, he used to just immediately go back to moving right, even if he should have been moving left at the end of it. So now, after the chase, which is a little bit more complicated maybe than it needs to be, he'll always turn to chase the guy based on the direction that he needs to go, depending on the volume that I create. So if somebody can't be snuck up from because the volume is too big and his perception is higher or whatever, he'll turn around and chase going the other direction, and it will keep track of whether or not he's going right. And the reason for that is when the player leaves the trigger, it will decide this direction based on whether or not going right is true or false, and then it will return back to moving left and moving right. There's a variation on this that I've created for a different enemy. It's exactly the same. The only difference is, instead of chasing the enemy, he shoots at the enemy, and he shoots a cute little bullet that we've got right here. Now, the bullet script is special because it doesn't really do what I want it to do. In fact, once I created this new concept for how the game mechanics would work, everything fell to pieces. Nothing is actually doing what it's supposed to do. It has to do with the fact that the enemies have trigger volumes for patrolling. So that's out, because if a bullet or anything else that would harm an enemy enters a trigger, you can't just solve everything with triggers, because their trigger volume is much bigger than their body is. So I've tried literally everything else. I've tried collisions, I've tried kinematics, I've tried layer collisions, I've tried interaction. I can't think of anything else to do. I'm going to have to actually show it to somebody who knows what they're doing and be like, how come I can't collide good? But in the meantime, this is what the bullet does, or is supposed to do. It'll check the game object the trigger is entered. If it's an enemy, it'll destroy the enemy. If it's a player, it will. For now, it's doing the respawn because I haven't instituted health yet. But there's one more fun thing that's supposed to work, and I got it to work once for a second and then never again, and it only worked with half of the thing, so I haven't really gotten it to work yet. And I'll show it to you because it's fun. What my kind of concept was, that is, instead of getting a projectile object and shooting the enemies while they're shooting at me, is that I have nunchucks. Yeah, nunchucks. What's up, nunchucks? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Obviously, the volume of the end of the nunchuck is not conducive to gameplay, because it could be anywhere, right? It could be anywhere on this rotation. So what happens when I click this thing, and actually I've maximized it, but what happens is a sphere collider on a different layer that's just the nunchuck layer appears. And I've tried it as a trigger and changed all the scripts to trigger scripts. I've changed it to a collider. I've changed it to a kinematic collider. I've locked its rotations and all these kinds of things. But no matter what I do, this guy, oh, he's chasing me. This guy doesn't get clobbered in the way that a person would get clobbered if he was getting hit on the head with nunchucks. So if I let him touch me, it'll end my, well, it'll respawn me. Now there's one other guy down here who's super fun. He's the shooting guy. Right now what happens is his bullet kills him. Because the bullet... I've been basically playing around with these colliders to try to get everything to work. But the bullet kills him. And what's supposed to happen is the bullet is instantiated from him and doesn't kill him, obviously. I think the bullet has an extra large trigger volume. But if he shoots at me, here he is. If he shoots at me and I hit the bullet, it's supposed to turn the bullet around, and then if it hits him, then it will kill him. But he patrols the same way, except for instead of chasing, if I enter the volume, he'll fire a bullet at me. And, you know, in terms of gameplay, being hit and having like 3 hearts and having one of those hearts be hearts, he'll just basically stand there dumbstruck that his bullet didn't kill you until you exit his trigger volume, and then he will continue to go the direction that he was going before. So that's fun. Now the Nunchuck script is really cool. I'll show it to you because I have a good time with it. Let's see, where did I put my guy? So the Nunchuck script has 2 states, active, inactive. When it's inactive, it just sets the angle of the end of the nunchuck to this 70 degrees, and that's the rotation that's called in when the time comes. Now I've discovered something fun, which is that if you want to put it on a parent object, which we needed to do because if I turned the whole thing off and I clicked the button, it wouldn't work, right? Because it's not active. So I can't have it turning itself on and off. So instead I have a holder that holds the script, and what it does is when it's made active, it's getting childs. Now I've discovered that if you say get child and it's index 0, of course, is the first child on the list. And then there's the second child on the list. And there's a third child on the list. But this guy is just the color of the nunchuck. This is the actual thing that's getting moved. And it's a pivot that's right at the very end of the chain so that it rotates around the bottom and not the middle. But when I press the button, it goes into this state. Now this state has this thing, which is the thing that's actually causing it to move. The first thing it does is it sets it active. Well, it sets the child of the script's object to be active. Then it gets the child of the child, which is the pivot, and it starts this. Setting the angle by -10 on an update loop, so it's just going whoop real fast, which is fine with me. And there's probably, instead of doing an animation, this is the easy way. However, guess what? Nunchuck scripts look just like bullet scripts. They have, except for mine, like I said, I've been playing around with these to try to figure out a configuration. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I'll have to have somebody look at it, or I'll have to get rid of patrolling or something, or figure out a better way to do patrolling and chasing than to use volumes. But it's the same thing. It gets the collider, or it could be a trigger, whatever. Finds the game object, checks the tag. If the tag says that it's true, it gets the actual game objects and deletes it. I've discovered that if you just drag collider to destroy game object, it just destroys the collider, which makes sense. And then the same thing down here with bullet. If it strikes a bullet, it's supposed to take the bullet and rotate it 180 degrees. So the forward force is just turned around. It goes the other direction. However, it doesn't do that. So, we'll figure that out. And of course, due to TwitchCon, I'm a little bit behind. I should have been doing health scripts and GUI stuff yesterday, but I literally spent 7 hours trying to figure out why the nunchuck won't chuck bullets. I can't figure it out. Anyways, that's where we're at. I hope that is assignment fulfilled, and we'll keep working on it tomorrow. Thanks.